Good evening, everyone. Please be seated. Lovely to see so many people in the public gallery this evening. I wonder if there's a particular item we'll hear there. As there are so many here tonight, I'm just going to quickly run through the fire procedures. In the unlikely event there is a fire, the nearest fire exit is through that door and down the stairs, and please muster in the marketplace. Also, before we start the rest of tonight's proceedings, I just wish to pass the council's condolences on to the family of Simon Smith, a former town councillor and deputy mayor. We're all very sad to hear about this past.
We have apologies from Councillors Gavishat and Miller.
Thank you. Agenda item 2. Does any councillor have any declarations of interest to make this evening's agenda? I see none. We'll swiftly move on to item 3, public participation. So for those of you who've not been here before, if you would like to speak, please raise your hand. I will try to go to as many of you as possible. Please state your name and if you're representing a particular organisation, and do try and speak loudly, because it's quite a big group to fill. So if you please raise your hand if you want to speak. I'll start. Kate, would you like to speak first?
Hello, I'm Kate Aldridge, Chair of Green and Henley. On behalf of Green and Henley, I would like to express our unequivocal support for the motions proposed by the Mayor, and we hope that other councils will follow. We are living in a time where the preservation and protection of our natural environment has never been more critical. Yet our community continues to face severe challenges, particularly regarding the quality and management of our water resources. Firstly, the motion of no confidence in Thames Water. Our rivers, once the lifeblood of our community, have been choked and fouled with sewage. This is not just an environmental issue, it's a public health crisis and a blatant disregard for our community's well-being. Thames Water has repeatedly failed to meet its obligations, resulting in the pollution of our precious rivers and streams. The mismanagement undermines our efforts to promote sustainability and protect our local environment. We deserve better stewardship of our water resources. Secondly, the call for the renationalisation of Thames Water. The privatisation experiment has failed us. Profit motives have overshadowed the essential need for reliable and clean water services. Renationalising Thames Water would bring accountability and a renewed focus on the public good rather than shareholder profits. It would ensure that our water management prioritises environmental sustainability, public health and the long-term interests of our community. Renationalisation is not just about ownership, it is about accountability, transparency and prioritising the needs of the people and the environment over profits. It's about reclaiming control over a vital resource and ensuring its management is aligned with our values and our future. We at Green and Henley believe in a future where our rivers run clear and clean, where our natural resources are managed with care and responsibility. Supporting these motions is a crucial step towards that future. The other important element is to ensure that the Climate and Nature Bill, formerly the Climate and Ecology Bill, is enacted, which would stop waterways being treated as open sewers, ensuring that rivers were restored to full health and making them flourishing sites of biodiversity, in line with the commitment to reverse nature decline by 2030. This council has already passed a motion in support of the Climate and Nature Bill, just as a reminder, and the 0 Hour campaign for the Climate and Nature Bill is being supported widely, increasingly now, pre-election across the community, with the most recent supporters being the Heart Surgery, the first GP practice to come on board, I believe, in the whole of the UK, and Sonning Common Primary School. Green and Henley is now asking the whole community to support the Climate and Nature Bill and ask all of our election candidates to support this bill. We need to show the election candidates that they have a clear mandate to support it. Please visit www.zerohour.uk and sign the Henley and Thames open letter, please, everybody in the room. Let us all send a strong message that the current state of affairs is unacceptable and that we demand better for our environment and our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I would like to speak on behalf of Henley Mermaids and Dave Wallace, who's our local citizen scientist. I'll do Henley Mermaids first. As Henley Mermaids, we've campaigned for the last 2 years and initially led by Joe Robb's research. And this has catapulted us 5 normal middle-aged women into this arena. We have all worked tirelessly as a team and individually to educate and raise awareness about the devastating effects of pollution has on our waterways, and more specifically the Thames in our area. We are delighted that the council and town are behind us. It's imperative we push this epically mismanaged water company to clean up its act. Three types of pollution that need seriously addressing. Sewage, which we all know about, discharges went up 105% last year. Chemical pollution, 350,000 regulated chemicals are released into our waterways through runoff, agriculture, but also sewage treatment works. Cracked pipes lead to water ingress and contamination, and over-abstraction. This is the process of removing more water out of the river system than can be naturally replenished. This leads to flooding, increased concentration of pollutants, and reduced shelter and food for wildlife. We need bold, ambitious targets and a fast, future-proof commitment, not just from Thames Water, but across all three parties running for election. With a unanimous vote of no confidence, we are not only amplifying our voices, but stopping the distant assault waged on our precious river and calling a halt to financially led and the morally questionable running of our shared resource. I implore everyone here in this chamber tonight to back the council, back us, back our river, without which Henley would be a troublous desert. Dave Wallace, who is our local citizen scientist, has been testing for E. coli on the Henley Mile. This is his speech. Building on the citizen science project that we initiated last year, we, the Henley and Marlow River Action Group, have started systematic testing for E. coli in Henley. We have chosen a place on the Henley Mile at Fawley Meadows for sampling. We consider it to be of maximum sporting and recreational usage, not just for rowers, but also for boaters, paddleboarders, swimmers, and now as exams are ending, the young people of Henley and surrounding areas. The results so far are pretty damning. Anything above 900 coliform forming units per 100 millilitres is deemed poor by the Environment Agency. Of the 8 readings taken so far, only 3 are below that limit. Our investigation shows that the outflow from Henley sewage treatment works is entering the Henley Mile at multiple points and is often carrying a high level of pollutants and pathogens, particularly after rain. The health of our river and the ecology it supports is genuinely at the mercy of the weather. How can this be in 2024? That is why we support the vote of no confidence in Thames Water. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there, it's Jim Snedden of the Henley Boating Company. They say a picture paints 1,000 words, and I've supplied some evidence to the council in video form of what I've seen in the river on the Henley stretch coming from the Fawley discharge. I think you'll agree it's absolutely disgusting. We've got lots of stats, figures, facts, but our children are getting ill. We saw this last year. There's many reports of this. We've got world-class Olympians, we've got our mermaids. We're encouraging people to get out into the open, to be fit, to get into the environment and be active. And we're having this sort of thing happening to our local stretch of river. We're also a massive tourist destination. Henley was built on the river. This is what we came from. The regatta is a massive worldwide focus upon us, and we really need to do something about this. So I fully support the no confidence vote tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors. I'm Jo Robb. I'm a district councillor with South Oxfordshire District Council, and I'm South Oxfordshire's River Thames champion. I first started to become aware of the crisis of sewage pollution in our beautiful river as a swimmer with the Henley Mermaids, but it was when I was appointed Thames champion back in 2020 that I started to research into the scale of sewage dumping and into the scale of illegal sewage dumping that is happening not just during exceptional circumstances in times of heavy rainfall, but which is taking place, as we now know, all year round in wet weather and in dry, largely as a result of the complete failure to invest on the part of Thames Water, failure to invest in its sewage infrastructure. At the same time, it may alarm many of you to learn that despite the fact that we've just had the wettest winter on record, we live in a water-stressed part of the country. We are looking at potentially running out of water by 2030. So we're in both a freshwater emergency and we're facing an unimaginable assault on our rivers by water companies due to lack of investment in their own infrastructure. So I warmly welcome this motion from the Mayor, and I thank you very much indeed for bringing it. There would be no Henley without the River Thames. As Jim has just pointed out, it's of critical importance to our local economy, but it's also of critical importance to our identity as a town. We love this river, it is part of us, and Thames Water is failing to provide us with the proper infrastructure and with the investment that this river deserves. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the 35-year long expected privatisation that I would argue has completely failed. We've got Thames Water now teetering on the brink of collapse. Its investors have told it that its business plan is uninvestable unless Ofwat agrees to a 40% bill increase and agrees to reducing penalties for sewage dumping. We need to reverse the calamity of privatisation, and I believe that Thames Water in its current state provides us with an opportunity to do that. We are one of fewer than half a dozen countries in the world that has a fully privatised water system. It doesn't have to be this way. Examples across Europe, including in Paris, show that water and sewage can be provided more cheaply while putting the health of people and planet first. Thames Water's shareholders are playing chicken with the regulator. They're refusing to inject much needed capital, and they're gaslighting the public by blaming Ofwat for holding them to proper regulatory standards. These people are not fit to own a regulated entity, much less a water company on which our economy and our very lives depend. The raft of regulatory tightening that's being proposed by government and by most of the major parties, I'm afraid, is mere tinkering at the edges, and it fails to recognise that privatised water is a scam. Privatisation is fundamentally incompatible with delivering water and sewage services for the people who rely on them and for our natural environment. Shareholder profit has no place in essential services like water. Thames Water should be brought back into public ownership when possible, and it should be managed as a municipalised, publicly owned entity like the wonderfully named Eau de Paris, with all profits reinvested into improving infrastructure and service. In the meantime, it's vital that our regulators are given back their teeth and are free to prosecute law breaking. I hope that you will support this excellent motion this evening, and that this will be a first step, a very important step for this iconic town to protect our iconic river. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? All right. This is the last chance to speak. After this, I'm afraid you'll have to stay quiet. Right. Thank you very much, everyone. Agenda item 4, minutes of the previous meeting. Does any councillor have any comments or amendments? I see none. All in favour? If there's no objection for a councillor, I would like to bring item 10 up to the next item on the agenda due to the interest in the public hearing. Thank you very much. Right, so agenda item 10, the motion of no confidence. We'll start with 10.1. Well, sorry, 3.1 under agenda item 10. The council resolved it has no confidence in Thames Water. I am going to propose this motion from the chair. Do I have a second? Well, Councillor Buckley, thank you.
Would you like to do the two together or with them separately?
I think we'll do them separately.
I think just in terms of so agenda item 10, the council resolves there's no confidence in Thames Water. I think the public has made it very clear. We have a river that is not fit for life, essentially. I heard all we speak. I've got friends that fish there. I've got people who are on that river. I know the days of the life of the river. From my perspective, I was going to expect you to do a bit more about it, so I'm going to, because I've bundled my two of this together. But I would like to focus more on not just the river, but on the impact of Thames Water on this town. We have a town that is historically going back hundreds and hundreds of years. We have a sewage system, we have a drainage system that is hundreds of years old. Thames Water has a responsibility to this town and to every other town in the Thames Valley to try and deliver good quality services. The United Nations classifies right to water as a human right. It cannot be that a government will sell off its resources. This isn't about privatization. I don't care about trains, I don't care about transport or anything else like that. This is about water. Water as a right to life. And for us to sit here and have our money, our bills, and not just here, this isn't privatization. There's no competition here. You can't pick and choose your water. You can't decide, I want to go and get my water from Severn. I want Northern Water. It doesn't have a, it is a monopoly. From this perspective, I think we have to look at Thames Water and say they are not doing good enough for us in this town, in this region, in this area, and the government has to look at it, not just from Thames Water, but from Severn, Yorkshire, all the way up. I second it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Now, I realise I probably should have given my speech first, but I will give it now and proposal of this motion. But forgive my, I'm still getting used to being in this particular chair. A stat in the report that the town clerk kindly put together for us, it's absolutely staggered me. 72 billion litres of untreated sewage have gone into the Thames over 3 years. And that's just the amount that can be processed. That is, I couldn't quite believe that figure. I thought it might have been a misprint when I first read it. They have also, Thames Water have also been shown to be, say, economical with the truth, and the judge has found them to have misled an investigation with the Environment Agency in 2017. And they also had a serious incident in Henley which killed over 1,000 fish, for which they will find a mere £2.3 million. They also intend to put bills up for Henley residents. And the E. coli levels found in the River Loddon, which, as I'm sure you're all aware, feeds into the Thames above Henley, was 23 times the safe amount. As Laura very kindly said, 105% increase in 12 months in these spills. And this is a situation that cannot be allowed to continue. It is, I believe, in the public interest to not only pass this meeting, but also to call to nationalise. If they are nationalised, then they are accountable to the public and to the public good, not to their shareholders. As the Deputy Mayor very accurately said, we have no choice in this matter. And therefore, I so move. Does any other councillor wish to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It affects every part of our lives, you know, our children swimming it. If you're me, your partner fishes it every night. And what's been happening is, along with yourself, Mr. Mayor, as I know you do like to share the statistics on WhatsApp occasionally, my other half is constantly sending me a screenshot of Thames Water spilling this sewage straight into the river. It's particularly bad in Henley, above the lock, down by Fawley. And what we're seeing is token gestures. Most of you will know that we've been trying to achieve bathing water status in Henley, something that we'd very much like. I'd say we were expecting to fail the first time, you know, we would really like to go for it again, and we'd really like to achieve that bathing water status. And as part of that, we've seen token gestures. We've seen, you know, Thames Water will pay for the water testing. It's all very nice, a little bit of lovely PR and all of that, but it's nothing more than a token gesture. You know, we do have lots of people that use our river. You know, we get lots of litter and things like that in the river, and we all go and we have wonderful river cleanups. It's a, you know, great community events actually, and there's something that we can try and do about it. But we can't do anything about this ourselves. There's nothing that we personally can go out and do on our boats or on our paddle boards to combat this. So we just feel helpless. And on top of this, you know, we've had fantastic action from River Action and from Thames 21, who have worked with the town council, particularly on trying to achieve bathing water status, who have shown, you know, real concern for our waters, but the water company that's doing this has no concern. And I will be honest, with my district councillor hat on, the community outreach staff from Thames Water did reach out to myself and the other district councillors from this ward with a view to seeing what they could do to improve the water quality, particularly with regatta in mind, which is wonderful. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy to be contacted. There is going to be a meeting with several interested parties later this month. That meeting will be held here in Henley, and it's a fantastic start, but unfortunately it's too little, it's too late. And for everything that's been done so far, or should I say everything that's not been done so far also, I have absolutely no confidence in Thames Water at all. As I also told the lady on the phone when she tried to make me pay my Thames Water bill, that I'm also refusing to pay. So, I completely support this.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Everton.
I'm totally in support of everything what the people over there have said. But Laura touched on one thing, and we talked about Thames Water, and I think it's disgraceful the way Thames Water are behaving. And I've seen all those statistics and all the other stuff. which I think, well, I couldn't believe it, like you said, it's just, it's basically going back to the 16th century when we was only allowed to drink ale and mead, because we couldn't drink the water because it was polluted. Well, I don't really want to be going back to that. But what we got to also remember is the infrastructure that we keep building. I mean, the sewage systems that we had originally have been updated and updated and updated, and because we keep putting more houses in, and that each time we do something, it's a knock-on effect to everything else. We don't, when you put 100 houses here and 100 houses there, you think, oh, that's only 100 houses, that's nothing, but that's another load of sewage going into the system, the drainage, the input, and why we're getting flooding is because we're building on all those pieces of land which was drainage originally. We haven't got that now because you're putting all that concrete down and everything else, so you're losing that drainage. So then that's what, you know, we get flooding and all that sort of stuff. So I know we have to build houses, but we also got to think of what impact it has on everything. Every single thing someone does, from building a house, taking a hedgerow away, it does something to the planet in like the wildlife, everything, you know, drainage. And I mean, and there's less and less money. But the thing is, it's like Laura's come out earlier, this the farm, but we don't talk about the farm stuff. We're talking about Thames Water. I disagree with all the Thames Water, what they're doing. They shouldn't be doing that at all. But the farm, they're using products which gets into the water table, and that's 40% of the other. And then you've got the runoffs and boats and all the other stuff, and oils and diesel leaks and all that other stuff, which is going into the Thames as well. So we need to be targeting government as well and supporting the farmers and help the farmers to produce better food for us without using the chemicals. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Eggleton. Councillor Hoston.
Yes, I'm totally supportive of the focus on the river quality and also the sewage spills. I am concerned about the request or the motion to nationalise the Thames Water. My experience is that if that were the case, the successor wouldn't have the funds to enable us to address this. And I think we've got to think about focusing on the water quality and as the councillor just said, the sewage that we're generating. And actually, I think that's where we should be focusing on. And I'm not in support of nationalising because I don't think it'll work. Thank you.
Councillor Rainey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll draw a reference to a couple of telephone conversations I had last week with the Mayor and Councillor Riceman about this topic. So the first thing is looking at renationalisation. How can I put this bluntly? Are we asking for a bit too much? Should we go for asking for regulation instead?
Yes.
Now, to me, I don't think it makes much difference whether as a council we push for, we vote for either renationalisation or regulation or something similar. We face the similar uphill battle. Now, I'm in full favour of the motion. The key thing for me is it's one thing us voting in favour of this tonight or otherwise, but how do we make it move forwards? How do we gain momentum? The key thing for me going through my mind is, are there similar councils up and down the river having conversations like this, having meetings like this, debating this? I haven't heard anything. I don't know if anyone else has. It would be useful to know. So I do think it would be worth potentially, if we decide to vote in favour, potentially joining forces with others. I do draw reference that we are but a mere town council here. Yes, we are Henley. Yes, we have a very worldwide, well-known reputation for our river, the regatta, and everything else that's fantastic about Henley. But reputation only carries us so far. I do appreciate we've got a general election in about 2 or 3 weeks' time or whenever it is, and we may or may not get a change of local MP, and that might What's going on there and what we're proposing tonight might stir somebody in Westminster into action, who knows? So it's a starting point, we can give it a go. Let's see where it goes, and let's see what momentum it generates, we've got nothing to lose.
Thank you, councillor Evans. Councillor Royston.
I'm very much in favour of this motion. Now, they do say that there are two sides to any story. So let's look at the arguments in favour of this motion. Firstly, the issue of nationalisation. We need to bear in mind Thames Water is effectively insolvent. 2 months ago, it defaulted on its debt. Now that debt has been built up since privatisation, when the debts were written off, and they've now built up £15 billion worth of debt, which they cannot repay. They claim to have paid no dividend since 2017, which is true only in the sense that they have not paid an external dividend. They have paid to their owner companies, their shareholders, their shareholding companies. They have paid a dividend regularly. They paid 37.5 million in October 23, and Ofwat is investigating that. In the previous 3 years, they paid 100 million in dividends. It seems that they can find money to reward themselves, but they can't find money to invest in our infrastructure as needed. The shareholders have declared the Thames Water to be uninvestable. They've refused to put the money in that Thames Water has said they need. And as a result, what we have seen is a claim by Thames Water to Ofwat to increase average water bills by £735 by 2030. So in answer to Councillor Hoskins' point, whether a successor organisation could afford it, well, Thames Water can't afford it. They're asking us to pay. They're asking us to pay to subsidise that £15 billion in debt that they've used to pay dividends repeatedly. Now, the most important part of this discussion really is the quality of our river and our waterways, and also around the beaches and other areas that are controlled by this organisation. And for the last 3 months, 11,833 hours of discharges have been committed by Thames Water. That's just pumping sewage into our rivers. 11,833 hours of discharges across the various points. Now, they've been repeatedly fined for these illegal, for the discharges which are illegal. And of course, they simply put up our water bills or increase their debt in order to pay those fines. They don't care. They are irresponsible. They are not suitable guardians of our valuable infrastructure. So how can anyone have confidence in such a company with its record of incompetence and failure? It's time to restore the control and management of this essential and monopoly service from this parasitic company. Let's vote in favour and stop the shit show now.
Councillor Royston. Is there any other councillors who wish to speak? Councillor Kendall.
Thank you. So in April 2024, this council declared a water emergency. And to me, it's a complete no-brainer that we continue with this motion, because we have declared that our waterways are important habitats for not only humans who enjoy splashing about in it and swimming in it, but also for the wildlife that lives in it as well. I hope, it makes very dismal when you look on the internet, when you look at the sewage map of Thames Water, where you can see the live red dots. It is always incredibly distressing to just see the whole area full of red dots, which just shows how much Thames Water is putting disgusting sewage into our river and waterways. So I do support this, and I'm also mindful of the campaign that was run by the Wildlife Trust, where they shared an animated film of much beloved and much known Wind in the Willows, where they use those characters to champion the river quality. And I just want to read out just the paragraph from what they said. But they said the film trailer shows how the lives of badger, ratty, mole and toad are disrupted by roads, river pollution and intensive agriculture. Many habitats have been destroyed and others have been broken up.
And Toad hangs a picture of a puffin entangled in plastic on the wall in Toad Hall. Farewell, old friend, he says. So that's just a picture. I'm just mindful that we always talk about what legacy we want to leave our children. And I think, wouldn't it be wonderful that we can try to leave a legacy that has a cleaner water for everybody? Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Campbell.
Just a point of clarification, we are taking them separately, aren't we? Because I only spoke to one, I didn't speak to the other.
We are taking them separately.
I'll reserve to speak to the next one.
The other councillor wish to speak on the first motion? No? Okay, so I will briefly sum up from the proposal side. I neglected to mention in my proposal speech the Climate and Nature Bill and how that fits in with our nature declaration and how this motion should further support those aims. Climate and Nature Bill has a real future to play in this, and I would hope that, as Brina Henley brought up, that our candidate at Westminster will support that motion when the Parliament meets, whoever wins. I'd also like to say one statistic, and as Councillor alludes to, I do love a statistic. 17 of 44 serious incidents in 2022 were Thames Water. Even though they're the largest company in the country, or largest water company in the country, that is still an enormously disproportionate amount. Even by the standards of these water companies, they are exceptionally poor. So, and I do hope that Councillor Roman's point, that other councils join us in this. I will personally write to these councils after this vote, should it pass, and ask them to support our position. I so move. Councillors, please raise your hand if you're in favour. Thank you very much. Pass unanimously. Move on to the second motion. This is motion 3.2 under agenda item 10. But, I'll get you started already. I propose that this council call upon His Majesty's government to nationalise Thames Water.
So I can't remember who mentioned it, but someone mentioned, the possibility of regulation, instead of renationalisation. Do you want me to second it first? So I'll have to do that. Yeah, I'll second it. I realised as I started speaking, it hadn't been seconded, so it's fine. I'll second it and I'll speak to it now.
Thank you.
Yeah, so someone said about regulation. The reason why regulation won't work, I'm sure many of you have seen the documentary by comedian Joe Lycett. If you haven't, go on to YouTube or any other streaming service, but I happen to know it's definitely in full length available on that one. Also, the podcast that's referenced in it with Gary Lineker is also available on YouTube, and I really recommend watching it. And some of the interesting things that was said, and the reason why regulation isn't going to work, is because if you look at the top staff of places like Thames Water, Southern Water, and you look at the top staff at Ofwat, they're all interchangeable. So whoever's CEO, CFO of this one has previously been CEO or CFO of that one, and they just swap around a bit. So I mean, can you really trust these people? On top of that, one of the other things that Joe Lycett highlighted in this, and he was actually talking about a different river, that there were 4,000 illegal outlets. So these are outlets that they're just not on record, they're not regulated. So how can you regulate something that there's no record of? They're already struggling to regulate all of the outlets we know about, all of the outlets that are declared. But if you've got 4,000 undeclared outlets pumping sewage into our rivers, how can you possibly regulate it? So I just don't believe the extra regulation is enough. Holding off what council is enough. We need to do something more, and that's why I'm completely backing this. I do think it's of interest. I think that's why every single one of the candidates in the upcoming election seems to be talking about it. We've seen important visits from prime ministers, deputy leaders, in just the last few days, down by the river on boats, launching Blue Flag for Rivers campaigns and such. It's a hot topic, and people are coming to Henley to talk about it. And absolutely, we should be the ones calling for this. So wholeheartedly support it. Have to second it.
Thank you, Councillor Henson. Thank you.
There is a lot of baggage that goes with the word renationalisation. There is memories for those of you young enough to remember the 70s. I was only a child, obviously. But the people that talk about nationalisation, it's socialist, is that who owns a resource is simply a matter of, is it these people? Or is it these people? Thames Water, Kemble, the main shareholders are the universities, were the university's pension fund. They are now having to write it off. University lecturers are going through a terrible time. The Ontario Municipal Workers Fund, Canadian people, just like you and me, sitting here, who've paid into the pension, and they are going to lose part of the pension. Nationalisation is simply about who owns it. Is it us who actually have a vote? We can say we want people to be in charge, and they can run. That's it. This isn't about socialism. This isn't about anything other than the right to life, the right to have fresh water. Why, as a government, would that be sold off? Why would you throw away the one thing you own? We either own it or somebody else. At the minute, it seems to be the Bank of China that owns it. Whoever owns the Bank of China, where that comes from. And this isn't a global thing. This is simply who should own the one thing that you need for your right to life. Renationalisation may be a touchy point. It may have problems. It may be that we can't do it properly. I understand your position to say, should we regulate or should we nationalise? The people who are competent to run it should run it. The people who pay into their government, their taxes, should run it. It's as simple as that. I don't believe in the regulations that I don't do it right. Water is the one thing that we need. This isn't just Thames Water, this is the entire United Kingdom.
Would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Councillor Ross?
I think it must be obvious to anyone that the privatisation that took place in 1989 has failed. It's failed our environment, it's failed us financially, it's failed in the service to provide us with the services that we need, whether it's clean water, clean rivers, and an environment that protect and a system that protects our environment and wildlife. It's also obvious that regulation has failed. Regulation has had 35 years to work and manage these renegade companies from ransacking us financially and poisoning our wildlife and wrecking our environment. We cannot trust private companies to do this. And it's not just Thames Water, of course, the same thing has happened in other companies. So we were just unlucky in getting the wrong owners of Thames Water. The wrong owners were only wrong in the sense that they weren't us. I think it's morally wrong that private profit should drive this essential monopoly. We're all entitled to control and manage this essential resource to life and our own civilization. The question is asked, is nationalisation the answer? Well, there are practical problems that need to be solved, and we are not experts in those, but I understand there are people in the government and civil service who do have expertise in this area. And it is perfectly possible to buy a failed insolvent company for not a great deal of money. And it's perfectly possible for us then to invest in it and make sure that the investment that we make actually produces an acceptable and perhaps even an excellent service. And finally, we don't actually need to nationalise the companies. The important thing we need to do is to make sure that the infrastructure is owned and controlled by us. So the detail of what will happen isn't going to be decided by us tonight, thank goodness. But what we're saying is that we want it to be controlled by us, we want it to be managed by us, and we want it to be run in the interest of us and the environment and the water resources that we need. And so the word nationalisation needn't worry us. What we're saying is the current situation is not acceptable, and we're pointing the government and other councils who will back us, as Councillor Rowlands has suggested, in making sure that this asset and this service is provided in all our interests.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Campbell.
Thank you. So I went to the cinema last week and I saw Mad Max Furiosa. And the reason why I bring that to this meeting tonight is simply because Mad Max describes a future, a dystopian future where water is really precious. And we are in a nature and climate emergency. We are facing drastic climate change. Water is a really precious resource. And I think there's one thing I think we want to take away from this evening's meeting as well, is that we have to treat our water better than how we're treating it today. Whatever that means in terms of being careful with how much we use it, recognizing that it is a precious asset. And that's just one, yeah, that's all I really wanted to say, is that to recognize the importance and the value of water, and whatever we can do to prevent that dystopian future, which may come to pass, that water is something that we all need to have access to and free access to.
Well, thank you everyone for speaking to this motion. I'll very briefly sum up. I completely agree with the comments made by my fellow councillors. Water is something that should be, it is a human right, and the idea that it should be owned by foreign investors with an incentive towards profit, not the people, is something I really struggle to reconcile morally. And thus I move the motion that we call upon His Majesty's Government to renationalise Thames Water. All in favour? All against? Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much to all the public area who are here for this motion. You have no obligation to stay if you don't want to, but if you do want to go, thank you very much everyone for turning up.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
My apologies to the town clerk for upsetting the order of this agenda. I will go back to where we were before by reports from committees. Planning is first up. Planning is first up, so Deputy Mayor.
It's still going to be interesting.
Maybe we've skipped over it to like four first.
Yeah.
It's not at all.
We did both of them together. It wasn't said that we were doing it together, but when we voted it through, it was just like one.
Okay. In that case, can I move that I do planning 3 sessions all together, please? Okay. No.
Particularly what's the vote on the second?
So, these are the minutes of the planning committee from the 16th of April. 216, apologies for absence, 17 declarations of interest, 218 minutes, 219 public participation, 220 phones, 221 objections, 222 decision notices, 223 certificate of lawful development application, 224 funding for pedestrian camping Fraser Road, 225 government planning consultation, 226 progress report for applications called in, 227 progress report.
All in favour? Thank you.
Again, planning committee, 7th of May, 228 apologies for absence, 229 declarations of interest, 230 minutes, 231 public participation, 232 plans amended, 233 plans new, 234 you know this off by heart, objections called on application, 235 decision notices, 236 South Oxfordshire priorities 2024, 237 withdrawn applications, 238 progress report for applications called on submit.
All in favour?
And the last of those, 21st of May, agenda item 1, election of chair, agenda 2, vice chair, 3 apologies for absence, 4 declarations of interest, 5 minutes, 6 public participation, 7 plans amended, variation of order of business, probably out there, 8 plans amended, 9 plans new, 10 objections, So 10 subcommittees, again, it's got, I wasn't here for this one. apologies.
Yeah.
11 election chair for the Neighbourhood Planning Committee, 12 election of vice chair for Neighbourhood Planning Committee, 13 election chair for Transport Strategy, 14 election vice chair for Transport Strategy, 15 objections for locations, 16 decision notices, 17 withdrawn applications, 18 progress report for applications called in, 19 progress report.
All in favour? Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Recreation meetings. Any calculations?
Thank you. Just now present the minutes of the meeting of recreations and amenities held on Tuesday, the 7th of May 2024. Item 81, apologies for absence. 82, declarations of interest. 83, public participation. 84, minutes. 85, progress. 86, finances. 87, Mill Meadows water fountain, I assume.
All in favour? Thank you very much. Councillor Mammons, thank you, please.
I'd like to present the minutes of the Town Community Committee meeting held at 7:30 on Tuesday, the 14th of May. Item 1, the election of chair. Item 2, the election of vice chair. Item 3, apologies. Item 5, public participation. Item 4, declarations of interest, caught me up. Item 5, public participation. Item 6, minutes. Item 7, appointment of subcommittees, their terms of reference and membership.
Councillor Hinton.
Can I just check something, because I thought that councillor Hunt was on the Henley and Bloom committee as well.
I don't think I was actually on that meeting, but
I feel like we should
very
put you
pleased
on
to.
it.
Are we able to vote on that then?
That'll be something to refer back to,
Can we refer it back then, please, if that's okay? Sorry to put you on the spot,
No,
but I was really hoping that you might be on it, and so I was disappointed to see that.
I think on agenda 7, it's been alright for that. Councillor Thompson, Watson, the Boswell group, not Handy and Blue. So it's not too good along with the followers.
Councillor Mammons,
Sorry,
sorry, Councillor Ron.
we could amend at this point, I think, the nominations, but also councillor Miller asked to be stood down from the defence subcommittee.
What?
That's-
Well, I don't think we should vote in favour.
Well. She's not here to vote. Was it Bloom? Oh, sorry.
it would be the committee that sets the membership of its subcommittees and working groups. So it'd be something to put back to TNC at the next meeting.
Okay.
Please, yes, that we will add that onto the agenda. Councillor.
Sorry, just to ask for clarification, does that mean that the meeting of Bloom will be with this current membership list that's planned?
Yes, however, that does not stop
Any other councillor from
any
attending?
other councillor from town.
Thank you.
Councillor Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Item 8, communications manager update. Item 9, town centre manager update. Item 10, new town road parking restriction consultation. Item 11, finance. Item 12, progress report. I so move.
All in favour? Thank you, Councillor Lambert. Councillor Riceman, to you.
Present the minutes of the meeting of the Finance Strategy Management Committee held on the 21st of May. Item 1, appointment of chair. Item 2, appointment of vice chair. Item 3, apologies. Item 4, declaration of interest. Item 5, public participation. Item 6, investment manager reports. Item 7, minutes. Item 8, finance. Item 9, expenditure. Item 10, policies. Item 11, working group membership. Item 12, exclusion of public and press. Item 13, legal updates. Item 14, 357 Reading Road lease renewal. Item 15, Tilebard Close Verge. And so move.
All in favour? Thank you. Reports of other authorities, and we, on district and county councillors. This might be on you, Councillor.
Well, I actually have nothing further to add and I have no other questions. But I thought the report was brilliant with the great big bold letters, I have to say. The writer, the author of the report, certainly highlighted the right points. But no, I have nothing further to add. Perhaps Councillor Arlett is in the.
Councillor Roberts, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, unless I missed it, I'm surprised that the town council hasn't congratulated Councillor Hinton on becoming chairman of SODC.
It's a very fair point. Yes, congratulations, Councillor Hinton. So next, reports of outside bodies. There are two elements of this. The first is reports from members of outside bodies. The second is to ratify the council's appointees. Can I please have anyone who would speak to an outside body first?
You wish to-
We just have it, we don't have to get our chat for again. Important. Yeah, so.
There are several. Do you want me to?
So just quickly, Councillor Hoskins, would you like to record anything regarding the open report before we move on?
No, I'm just asking whether you should be reviewing it. I don't know.
If anyone wishes to talk about it, we're very welcome to, but as Councillor Gareth isn't here, there's not much we can do. What item?
Drainage.
The OCC report.
I was gonna put it up on, building Gainsborough Residents Association to give them, because it starts off at Gainsborough and then works outwards.
Yeah.
When I spoke to Thames, not Thames Water, but, Coventry County Council, originally they were doing them yearly, all the drain goes, all done yearly, because if you know anything about drainage, they're gullies. And when you get to that point where the soil goes back down the drain, it's not just put a thing down and suck the drain out. You have to rod the drains because it won't go anywhere. But they said they would do it, this again, cutbacks. So yearly, they were supposed to be doing it, so they would take all the waste off the streets in those valleys yearly, but over that, which they do now is 2 yearly, and that's probably turned to 3 yearly now. Those drains, or 4 yearly, that's why they're completely blocked, and quite a lot of our drains around the town are completely solid right up to the top, growing grass out of them, and if they had again knockbacks and cutbacks and all the other stuff, if you had road sweepers out on the streets doing them on their regular tours, which they used to do monthly, going around the streets, you wouldn't have the gullies blocked and you wouldn't have this problem with flooding either.
Thank you, Councillor Overton. Does anyone else want to speak before we move on? No, thank you. Reports of outside bodies. Councillor Dodd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to say a few words about the Over 60s Club, because the club is hugely thankful to this council. Firstly, because it bought the club in 92. It was owned by the educational charity. They were attempting to offices. We managed to persuade this council to buy it. One of the best investments it's ever made, and also to give us a generous grant. And it's flourishing. You look after the outside of the building. We look after the inside. We have a membership approaching 100. We have 2 managers, and we do lunches Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Friday's always a roast dinner for £8.50, which is incredible value. We go for break even. We don't go to make money out of it. We just go for break even. We've got a lot of. We did 3,250 meals last year, which is pretty good. James is very helpful and comes and sorts out things for us, don't you, James? Entertainment, we've got your mum and your mum does the craft club, which is great. We do bingo, which they love. And a lady's just come in and offered to do chair yoga, which is lovely, all for free. We've had huge support from the Tony Lane Foundation. And with Councillor Arlett, we managed to raise 50k to redo our kitchen. Half of that was paid for by the Tony Lane Foundation and all the other charities. So we're very well supported. Anne Manning's another one who supports us, and Tom Lynn's always paid for our Christmas, which is really good of her. So I can only say, because this town council owns the building, it's saved. If it had been owned by the county council, it would have been closed ages ago. And people say, why haven't we got more clubs like this? But it's because we've done it. We own it. We're in control of it, which is absolutely wonderful. And members there, because I go in, or at least once a week, and they say to me, I don't know what we would do without this club. So I just say thank you to the town council, from all the members and the people there. It's lovely. Do pop in and say hello, have a cup of coffee. And Kelly's, we'll come on to that, but Kelly is going to join us. And we've got Tom on board. So thank you.
Thank you. Will we come to the appointments to outside bodies after?
Yes, this is speaking to reports from outside bodies first.
Well, I was speaking for Greenham. And I have a book. Share the time book with me. So I think the main report from Greenham Henley is that in less than a few days' time, we have our Great Big Green Week. And everybody in this room and everyone listening and watching on the video and get this on the newspaper are invited to come and join us for a whole week of amazing activities and talks. It starts with the Nature Discovery Day, family friendly, and if you don't have kids, please do come and to explore the nature that's on our doorstep. Followed by a few films at the Regal with some great panelists and various talks looking at. We've talked a lot about morality tonight already, about Thames Water, and we also want to look at what is our moral obligation around displacement, climate change and faith. Through to brilliant climate scientists coming to this room on Monday the 10th of June. So lots of activities. Greenham Henley is grateful for the support that Henley Town Council have provided to put on this week of events, and so we warmly encourage you to come and join us.
Thank you, Councillor Kandai. I'll give a very brief update from the Monroe Museum, who have had a good few weeks. They've launched their 3-year strategy. I believe some of the councillors actually went down to it. They have reopened the Piper Gallery. They took part in the Henley Arts Trail, and as part of along with Greenham Henley and the Great Big Green Week, have launched their beautiful blue exhibition, appropriately enough, on the state of the river. And as they promised us when they came to the grant application, required for funding to outside bodies, and rather nice, they've secured £16,000 worth of funding from the Royal Regatta. It's something to nice for the regatta to be supporting the town as well. So I will now put you on to effectively 7.2, membership of the councillors to outside bodies. This is being found on page 43 of your agenda. We actually only have 3 vacancies to consider here. Blended Twinning Association, having consulted with the town clerk, there isn't a vacancy as there are only 2 positions. So the first one is the 60+ club management.
I'd like to propose Kelly, who has, as mayor, came to our committee and is familiar. It's only 4 meetings a year, so I'd like to.
I'm very happy.
60s, yeah.
I'm very happy to second that, and well volunteered, Councillor Hinton.
Well, actually, just to speak to it, I bumped into a 92-year-old man today. He said the crowd there's getting a little bit too younger, but you know, these things happen. It's still the most decent place in Henley for a meal. So, you know, I'm going there for the meals really as well.
And parties.
And parties, yeah, the bingo
too. Next one, Henley Fillets Lighting Twinning Association. There is 1 vacancy for this. Does any councillor wish?
I'm going to kick myself for doing this again, but I just, right, then I'll explain. First of all, we're going to Fallets in the summer for the celebrations there. And in 7 months that I was mayor, I did more twinning events. We hosted the mayor of Fallets here. There was quiz, there was an autumn party. I mean, they are a really social, active group. I am a little bit busier this year than usual, but I would like to be more involved, I think, in that as well. So at the moment, I'm not going to kick myself. I'm sure I will in the future, but I'd like to take that because if nobody else would like to take it.
Do we have any other nominations for the position? If not, I will propose Councillor Hinton for the position and
Second myself.
All in, well, actually, we'll do it on block, so thank you very much. River and Road Museum, I would like to propose from the chair that we appoint Councillor Plant as the 1 year role that we have as trustee for here. Do I have any other nominations?
No, I'll just second.
Thank you, Councillor Everton. All in favour? And that's on block, lovely, thank you very much. Now we're going to Jim. Oh,
Sorry, I thought I was on the list for bringing home. Not really not.
no, Councillor,
Could I ask clarification as to whether or not you're there in your own right, or whether you're there representing the town council?
Okay, all right, I'm there. That's what, okay. Thank you.
I think that's what we arranged 12 months ago, because you suggested you wanted to be, but then we thought it was best to have 2 other councillors and you, so we get 3.
Yeah.
So yes, that works fine.
Excellent, let's go over the
Thank you for the reminder.
Are you content?
I am content. yeah.
Lovely, thank you very much. Right, we can move on. Agenda item 8, Mayor's civic engagements. If there are any questions, can we please note them?
Just be your favourite.
Sorry?
You have to say your favourite, a few words about a couple of them.
Not really, it was quite fine. Concur. No, I think actually on that note, I'd like to pass my thanks to all the council staff. We've got on a fantastic day. And it was very special to have so much support, and I also thank the council for the support you have given me in my first few weeks. So thank you all. Next, agenda item 9, Climate and Nature Advisory Group. There is a proposal to quickly reform the climate emergency working group. I'm happy to and amend the terms of reference. I have proposed this from there. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Buckley, thank you. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Hoskins.
I'm very supportive of the combination of the nature emergency and also the climate emergency. There is a degree of focus on strategy in this presentation, and certainly before it came out, I think there was very much talking about the strategy elements. One of the things that we need to have is also the measurement. And I think the issue that the town council has got is that it doesn't, hasn't been, certainly in terms of climate emergency, been very effective about reducing the climate emissions. The first and the only one I've seen is the 2019-2020. And if we're going to talk about this in this context and talk about strategy, we have to have both the measurement and the strategy. You can't just do the measurement. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hoskins. Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Weston.
I agree with Councillor Hoskins that it's very important that in terms of climate change and measuring our emission, it's important to know what our baseline is, how it's moving, in order to judge the extent to which we're reaching our targets. And I know that there is a conflict between actually measuring what you're doing and making sure you are doing things which achieve those goals. And I know that often time is restricted, but Councillor Hoskins' point is well made that we can't overlook one in favour of the other. We need to make sure that we keep both in the picture, and I very much hope that over the next year we do manage to have a reasonable go at both, and that we do assess how we're doing and can report back to the residents of Henley how well we are following our declarations of emergency on both climate change and nature. Yeah, so I fully support the proposal.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? If not, I say move, all in favour? Thank you. Last item on the agenda, 11 Town Crier. I would like to propose that this be deferred to the next Town Community Committee meeting. Due to a lack of information, Councillor Riceman, I believe you had some concern. Would you like to speak to them?
Yes, so I'd like to second your proposal. I think it's sensible for us to make sure that where an individual is potentially representing the town council as the apparent town crowd said would like to do, that we make sure that we're clear about who he is and whether or not and how he does actually carry out that representation. And I'm sure that the candidate is very suitable, but I'd like to I'd just like to make sure that we do have a clear way of satisfying ourselves that we have a good process in place of making sure that the way we are represented is in the style of someone who we would support fully. And at the moment, I think there isn't really a process in place for doing this. I think town criers are relatively recent in election, and we just need to make sure that the council fully buys into that, so he has the full support and can genuinely claim representation.
I think it goes back centuries.
I don't think
Did you want to speak to this, or are you just listening to me?
Yes, exactly.
Right, do they want to speak to the
Yeah, I mean, I think we need more detail, you know, I know he said it doesn't matter how long it takes, but I hate when things just keep going round and round, so it'd be nice if town community had the delegated powers to actually deal with it, but I'm sure it'll come back to this committee in 6 weeks, this full council in 6 weeks anyway.
I agree with TNC could, it's not a staff appointment or anything like that, it's the appointment of a freelancer, so it would be within TNC's remit to do so.
Yes.
Oh, Sven, well, that's absolutely fantastic. Happy to support them. I think that he, you know, for what it's worth, I think he has done a very good job as a town crier. He is extraordinarily loud. I mean, it was loud at the Christmas festival, walking through that crowd. He certainly made the crowd divide and everything. I'm not sure that, I think when he says represent Henley Town Council, I think that's not outside of Henley. I think he just means at our own civic events, although I'm not entirely sure how a town crier might fit into remembrance and the mayor's parade like that. But I take his point. I think he's good at what he does. It would be nice to formally recognise him, and I would just like not to take too long.
There's a fair point. That's a councillor right.
Can I just clarify that, what he said in his letter is that I have looked at joining 2 town crier organisations, and each have indicated they would need a formal endorsement by the council to confirm my status. So he does wish to represent us in wider bodies. So that was really the main reason for my concern, not how he represents us at the actual civic events and so on.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Richard?
Couldn't they be given delegated powers to town clerk?
Yeah, they've got.
To actually, yeah. You know, so it doesn't have to come back till next meeting if we're all in favour of it.
I think the idea is that we, as a council, would see further information before we are in favour of it, and that would then go to TNC. Okay. Right, so all in favour